Morning everybody, how you all doing? So yesterday was a bit of a revelation for a lot of people. I think it was a eye-opening chain of events yesterday for some people. Now, I've been politically homeless for a very, very long time. I've held out hope for some individuals within the movement politically, but I think yesterday all hope of that was dashed, was just erased by one video, really. And I'm just confirmed now that I'm politically homeless. I've known for a long time that there is simply no political solution to what is going on in this country. And if I'm honest, the path we're going down now scares the hell out of me. Really does. Scares the hell out of me. Because people who we thought were going to stand strong have proven to be weak. I saw right-wing political commentators, and I'm saying right-wing, I'm using the term right-wing so we know exactly which group I'm talking about. I'm being precise in this. There were lots of them yesterday that came out, and they looked like rabbits caught in the headlights of a car, because I think it suddenly dawned on them that at some point they could be the leaders of a movement that is involved in revolution, civil unrest, or civil war. Now, instead of keeping that fear to themselves, composing themselves and carrying on and pushing forward and giving people hope, they got on camera, made videos, and showed that fear to the people who had hope in these people. And I know I want to remind these people that got on their pulpits yesterday preaching down to us in the movement, I'm going to remind them, all these holy rollers, that the only thing needed for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. All throughout our history, good men have stood their ground against evil. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. We're absolutely and totally facing an evil. We have a rogue government in power that doesn't care about the people. Doesn't care about the people at all. In fact, it's doing everything within its power to make our lives more dangerous. It's bringing in dangerous people, putting them into our communities. It's releasing prisoners from prison, dangerous prisoners from prison early, to make our communities more and more dangerous. People are desperate. I listened to a telephone call of a woman that phoned into Talk TV yesterday, and she was in tears on the phone. She was terrified. She lived in London, and her local area was basically a war zone. Her friend had been murdered in the park. She's had countless friends that have been murdered. People are at their wits' end. The country is literally at the breaking point. And you political leaders, yesterday, you dropped the ball. You dropped the ball. When you should have been giving out hope and encouragement, you gave out fear. It's all right to go in your pulpits, at marches, at protests, out the front and making these grandiose speeches to everybody. It's another thing to follow through on them when the time comes. And yesterday showed me that these individuals aren't capable of that. They're not capable of it. And we have to remember, they're politicians at the end of the day. And after going through all this grandiose speech about how civil war is immoral, it's illegal and immoral, all through that, and I have to question that to some respect as well, because what framework are you working within? What framework are you working within? Because when a regime makes the laws, and then you're saying that, oh yeah, to go against that regime is illegal and immoral, by what standard? Their standard? The standard that they're setting? The fact that they're criminals? They're putting people's lives in danger? So you're basically saying that we have no right to defend ourselves from that regime, because defending ourselves from that regime would be illegal and immoral. Well, if that's the case, then the French resistance was illegal and immoral, because it rose up to fight against the Nazi regime. Fighting against the Nazi regime at the time was illegal. Was it immoral? I'd like to know. I'd like to know your thing on that, because your logic doesn't make sense. Your logic doesn't make sense to me. And all this talk about turning the other cheek, we must turn the other cheek. All the time, turn the other cheek. Well, from a military perspective, turning the other cheek presents the enemy with just another target. That's all it does. It doesn't stop the enemy. Doesn't help anybody. It just presents the enemy with another target. So from a military standpoint, that's absolute bollocks. Absolute bollocks. And I expect nothing else from these people. Nothing else at all. They talk a good game. They talk a very good game. But when it comes to action, that's when they always let us down. That's when they drop the ball. And I know a lot of you are going to know who I'm talking about. I'm just going to say the name. Nick Tenconi. Nick Tenconi totally dropped the ball yesterday. Absolutely 100% dropped the ball with that thing that he came out with. It's like, what are you talking about? And I think a lot of these people, they get mixed up. They get mixed up between civil war and revolution. What is the difference between civil war and revolution?
Core difference lies in their goal. A civil war is generally a conflict between organized groups within the same country, fighting for control of the government or territory, e.g. secession, while a revolution is a forcible overthrow of a government or social order, with the aim of creating a new system or radical social, political, or economic change. However, the terms often overlap. A successful revolution often involves an initial civil war, and some civil wars can lead to significant systemic change.
Because revolutions can be peaceful. You can have a peaceful revolution. And I will say this, if you don't want civil war, then maybe you should get behind people that are pushing for the national strike. You should be pushing that. Because that is the last peaceful option we have on the table. Everybody just downs tools, doesn't go to work. That will bring this rogue government to its knees peacefully. No one needs to die. No one needs to die. It would collapse the country. It would collapse the government. That is the last peaceful option left on the table. Now, if you don't want civil unrest, if you don't want civil war, which a lot of experts are predicting now, a lot of them are saying the next 5 years. I'm predicting weeks, because we are at the breaking point. Wayne Broadhurst could have been the straw that broke the camel's back in that regard. He could be a catalyst for this, and you need to be ready. And let's think about this as well, right? We may not be the ones to start a civil war. There are certain demographics, certain groups out there that are begging for a civil war. They're preparing for it right now. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do if they start a civil war? Are you going to call it illegal and immoral when people have to fight back to defend their lives? Are you going to do that? Is it illegal and immoral to defend your family from an evil? Or are you just going to tell them to turn the other cheek and watch them all get slaughtered? Be interesting to see how this pans out. Like I said, it's one thing to be in the front of a march, to cheers, yay, to make grandiose speeches at protests. It's another thing to stand your ground and prove to everybody you mean what you say. It really is. Totally disappointed in Nick Tenconi yesterday. This is what I mean. When he made that video, he looked like a rabbit caught in the headlights of a car. And I'm talking from experience. I've met people in my line of work that talk a good game. I've done this, I've done that. But when it comes down to being there, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, when the shit hits the fan, they're nowhere to be seen. And let this be a cautionary tale for all of you that are putting your faith and hope in political leaders, in right-wing leaders. Don't forget, at the end of the day, these people are still politicians. And then at the end of your speech, to make it a political advert after saying all of that, was just bad optics. Absolutely bad optics. People don't need that. People are absolutely at their end of their wits' end in this country. 100%. We don't need more talk. We need action. So if you don't want a civil war, get behind the strike. You need to be promoting the strike. You need to be saying, look, the only thing we can get out of this peacefully now, you can't protest. You can't do petitions. They don't work. Doesn't work. They just ignore you. This regime will just ignore you. You need to get behind the strike. It can still be averted. But it needs leadership within this movement to stand up and be counted like the rest of us are doing now. Those people that are on the hotels every single week. Look at the Southampton group. 17 weeks they've been outside those hotels every week. Every single week. Need to be like them. Stand your ground. Be strong. Because ultimately, it might not be us that start the civil war, but we may be asked and called upon to finish it. That's something that Nick Tenconi didn't take into consideration yesterday when he was labelling civil war as illegal and immoral. Look back at the first civil war in this country. By his logic, the first civil war was illegal and immoral, yet it led to us having the Magna Carta, the right to having a trial by our peers. And this was good men standing up against a tyrant. Good men standing up against a tyrant at the time. And like I said, I think Nick Tenconi is confusing revolution with civil war. Now don't get me wrong, both of those things can lead to one another. A revolution can lead to civil war. A civil war can lead to revolution. They're not mutually exclusive things, but they are different in their goals. I think that needs to be made clear. Now, I'm sorry if people are going to get upset by this video, but I've got to say what I've got to say. I'm not going to hold back just because it might upset people. People need to be woken up and realise that what they've done is just wrong. It's bad optics. It's a bad move. You're making a tactical mistake. If anything, I hope this helps Nick Tenconi, because he needs to realise that all of this out here, all the people out here in this country, it's a tinderbox. It's an absolute tinderbox. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on this. This is Vindicator, signing off.